Hi, welcome back to the Fashion Nap. I'm in a studio right now, as you can see. Whose studio is it?
I am about to interview Ellie Misner, and it's a very young brand that she has, but she's achieved so much. She's a Demi Couture brand, which I love. She does a lot of corsetry, a lot of gowns, very me. She just started doing ready to wear, and it is so interesting. I want to ask her everything about the ready to wear. She's also about to start doing bridal. She has started doing bridal, so it's a big point in her career. She's got a lot going on, so I'm sure she's going to have a lot of stuff to tell us about.
I am about to interview Ellie Misner. She is a Demi Couture designer based here in London. It's one of her amazing pieces, and we are going to talk all about process and other things. Ellie,
Hello.
how are you today?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. I feel great that I'm in this green look.
Oh, we look cute.
Isn't the thigh cut out so smart? What the hell? I have so many questions to ask you.
Okay.
I've been following your work for a
I'm
while, and I just want to know everything. So I always like to start at the beginning. So what is your earliest fashion memory?
So I don't know if this is my earliest, but my mum had the coffee book of Manolo Blahnik's shoe sketches, and genuinely because I wanted to be a shoe designer before I wanted to be a clothes designer, and I used to just copy them and design my own. I was just obsessed. I literally all the time would just draw them, and this book was filled to the brim of his sketches with my versions and blah 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 blah. And so I think probably that's probably what got me into it. But my mum has the best shoe and bag collection, so I think growing up around that, because she was always it doesn't matter what size you are, your feet never change.
True.
So she would always buy beautiful shoes. So then I guess that probably that that's how it started, and that's what got me into high-end fashion, and then here we are.
Do you still have the drawings?
I probably do.
That would be so cool to go and look back at.
They're probably so bad as well.
No, they're probably so cute.
Me age 13, just obsessed with high heels.
I know that book.
No, it's literally the nicest book ever.
Yeah.
So yeah,
I always think with Manolo, even the real ones, they look like sketches.
I know, they're just amazing. Yeah,
I can see how if you fall upon that as a kid, you'll be like, oh, this is really the most exciting version of shoes you could find.
Exactly. For me, that's how I view fashion. I'm if this can be crazy but fun but beautiful, then that's what I like making. But yeah,
crazy, fun, and beautiful.
Crazy, but beautiful.
Okay, so it was the Manolo book. That was what got in your head. And was it then that you knew fashion could be a job? Or
yeah, I think I always wanted to do art. It was always the subject I wanted to do. But I also did DT, and I thought maybe let's go architecture. This is when you're young and you're I have no idea what I want to do, but I know the sector. And then I found out that architecture takes 7 years, and I was yeah, no fucking way I'm doing that. No way I'm doing that. So then I was okay, fashion, similar, it's you're building things, but it's whatever. And then I was, for so long, I thought I wanted to do shoes, and then when I was applying to unis and studying what I can do, there were only 2 places in the UK that did shoes at the time, and one of them was in London, and I knew I didn't want to stay in London because I'm from Hertfordshire, Northwest. So I was I don't want to be that close. I want to
spread your wings.
Yeah. So I was well, that doesn't really work. And then the other one, I can't even remember where it was, or I think maybe there was only one. So basically, I was just okay, what's next best? And then I did art foundation, and then
you found your way into clothes. This is so interesting.
And because then that art foundation was fashion and textiles.
Okay.
And I was okay, maybe I want to do knitwear. And then again, so fewer courses on knitwear. So I was okay, maybe we'll just do women's wear, and then maybe we can do knit. And then anyway, I ended up where I am. Basically, there was no plan. The more you speak to me, the more you'll realize there has never been a plan. I have never decided to do anything.
But that's not what I'm realizing. What I'm realizing is it seems like you, and if I'm wrong, tell me. But what I'm picking up from what you're saying is it seems like you've always been drawn to making something from scratch, because it was making a building and then making the shoe. And then even if you want to do clothes, knitwear, you're making the fabric.
Yeah.
So it's always like, how can you start from the least?
100%.
Which is kind of interesting now, considering you do so much corsetry.
Because it's so like building something.
Yeah.
And they're like, that's how I make all my stuff. It's like building bases, and then I like design on top. You're so right. I'm realizing too. But yeah,
that's the fashion Oprah. What can I say?
But yeah, it's been very organic, definitely. Like nothing has been a choice of mine, I would say. Just kind of happened to me.
For those who don't know the difference, which we've already established, is me. What is the difference between Demi Couture and Couture? Because maybe I should just fill the viewers in. Your tagline, should we say, is like Couture for all bodies.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So like haute couture is a select. It's basically like getting Michelin stars.
Okay.
Where like you have to be like awarded that status.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, I don't know if this is correct anymore, but I think originally it was like by a board group, and it was in Paris,
Mm-hmm.
and it was, you essentially had to be like the best of a couturier, which is like everything had to be made from scratch, like everything by hand. And it's basically like you're the best at your work, and you make these like exquisite gowns, but everything is finished by hand. And that's what haute couture first was. I don't know if to this day that is still how they define it, but I'm pretty sure
they still
it is.
exist.
They still exist, but I don't know if it's like the same, like you have to pass the board or whatever. Demi couture, to me, is the basic amalgamation between ready to wear and haute couture without being given the title by someone else. So like I make couture, and everything's done by hand, everything's like hand finished, blah 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 blah. But obviously I'm just a small designer from London, so like to me that's kind of what the difference is.
That makes sense. And I think we've kind of evolved past like one group of people being like, this is that and this is not that, because there's so many designers now. How can they police it? Really? I can't remember what the board are called. I was like, oh, I'm going to sit here and speak French or something.
I do think it's important that it still defines that level, because you can't just be like, oh, everyone can do it, because that's the whole point, is that not everyone can do it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's a skill.
I don't think I'm anywhere near that skill, which is also why I would almost like offend myself if I titled myself that.
Okay, I'm going to ask you a bonus question now.
Okay.
Do you think that is because of the style like that you design? If you were given a brief that was like very heavy embellishment and all this stuff, do you reckon you could execute it or try?
I've done like 80 hours on a skirt.
That's what I'm saying. That's why I'm asking you.
I don't think I have the like actual training. If you're on Savile Row, like it's like, I could probably make a suit, but like no one's going to be like, that's a Savile Row suit.
Got ya.
You know?
Got ya.
So I think it's kind of like that, where it's like the difference between it is like you're a master of your craft, right? You know? Like a black belt versus what, like a brown belt. I don't know what they are, but you know. And I'm like learning as I go, but I'm in the sector, but I'm nowhere near that level, you know?
Okay, I got you.
But I want to be, but just it might take me like 10 years. Yeah. And that's okay. Basically.
Yeah. I think what I was trying to get at was like, is it a thing of like team and resources, or is it a thing of like training? I think it's a skill. But I like that you're open about that, because it is like a really respected thing, and people do spend their whole life to get to that level. Yeah, and so it's because they are the best, they're the masters of the craft, and I don't think you can just wake up and be like, oh, I'm just going to be that. I actually just think I'm going to be that, like from day one. Not from day one. Yeah. You have to put the hustle in, and I think that's a good lesson for anyone listening, because I think in this day and age, people do kind of roll out of bed and they're like, I'm a master couturier. Yeah. So and I'm not. So I'm working my way there, but not yet. Everything is hand finished. Everything is hand finished. Yeah. Which I was also handmade by me and hand finished, just start to finish. But yeah, that's amazing, because I was looking up a while ago. I was researching something else, and I was looking up like what makes something couture and all of this, and like I think the old definition, or where people defined it, was like everything by hand, and then people start to argue it doesn't have to be necessarily by hand, but maybe just the best way, whatever is the highest level. So something is machine, something is hand. So I was intrigued as to like what your process was, but everything by hand is pretty cool. Yeah. So obviously I sew on the machine,
but all the gowns are like everything's draped by hand and
Wow.
hand sewn.
Yeah.
So it's like basically anything draped that I make is hand sewn.
That's amazing.
Like it's not done on a machine, but the bases are all done on a machine.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
But that's really impressive. You've walked me through like the shoes, the architecture, the knitwear. What drew you specifically to gowns and such like a feminine way of dress?
So my final collection I did on my dad, and my dad is quite like an eccentric guy. Like he wears a suit to work, like he has to, but he's like a funky sock, funky tie, funky hang. Like basically where he can add flair, he will add flair, right? And so I wanted to do a collection based on like that kind of like making fun of that concept of like starting with something really structured and tailored and like making it like really camp and fun. And then I really got into Charles James, early 1900s. Anyway, he was probably like, and still now since has been like one of my favorite couture designers ever. And he looked at like everything was about like paneling and structuring and stuff like that. And I was like, okay, let's look at that. And then I also, through mutuals, knew Mr. Pearl. And so I was like, okay, Mr. Pearl, oh my God. And so then I was like playing with the idea of like corsets on men. And then I realized I didn't want to do menswear.
Seeing a pattern here.
So then I was like, okay, let's do gowns that are like playing with the structure, playing with like silhouette, and then they have that kind of like fun fabric flair. So then the whole collection was made out of like off the roll tie fabric. So each look was like a tie drawer, basically. And then that's how I did corsets. Very long-winded way of saying how I did corsets.
So you glossed over something really crazy.
Okay.
You know Mr. Pearl, if you're mutual.
So my best friend, her mum and dad are South African. And he's South African.
Right.
And he grew up like with my best friend's mum.
Okay.
Like in her house.
So basically you're best friends with Mr. Pearl. And so am I.
I've only met him like twice. But like but anyway, every time he's here or anywhere and they catch up and have dinner, her mum always asks if I want to come. And he's wonderful.
This is like.
But yeah, but when I met him after doing my collection, and I was like, oh my God, I used you in my research. And it was like really, he was like, oh my God, what the hell? Because he's very, very humble, like very, very humble.
Of course, it's always these people that you think
but like he was almost like embarrassed. And I was like, oh no, now I feel so embarrassed. But yeah, but anyway. So that was like.
Did he give you any like wisdom? Or do you not want to?
He told me not to go to a London uni.
Okay.
He said it was good that I went to Brighton. He was like, you're going to do better. They really focus on craft. And he was basically just like, just get good at what you do and be confident.
Solid advice.
Okay. Took me about 7 years to get that. But yeah, anyway.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
Sorry, I just couldn't. I couldn't.
No,
move
I
past
know, it's crazy.
That little detail. I was like, we're going back.
No, I don't think I've seen him now for like 5 or 6 years. So yeah, but he's wonderful.
You also do some ready to wear.
Yes.
Because I love all your stuff, but
we're in
it, and
we're in the new ready to wear.
I'm crazy about the gowns. I'm crazy about the draping. Like that's just my language all over. I love it. But you do ready to wear, and you're starting to release more of it. What is your approach to more casual styling? Because obviously, when you're doing gowns, you have free reign to kind of play and do whatever you want, and it can be as over the top as you like.
For sure.
How do you translate that? Like, how do you get from something like this to something like this?
The first ready to wear collection I did was called toiles, which is like the French word for like a first draft of a dress. It's normally done in a cheap fabric, and it's so that you can fit something perfectly but don't waste money on fabric, right? I used the toiles from my first Demi Couture collection to drape into some tops and skirts. Like I reused them to then make the first ready to wear. And I was like, okay, this is quite like a fun concept. And it was like playing with draping, but it was a lot less work. like a normal amount of work, basically, so that I could make a lower price point. Because when I first started, I was like, I know I want to do Demi Couture, but I was also like, I don't know how to like place myself in the industry, and like people be able to buy my stuff, because obviously couture is really expensive. So that's kind of why I started ready to wear and how I got to here. And now this has all, like the skirt you're wearing starts as like a long dress and then it gets draped into a skirt. So like all the holes are like, they were parts of other pieces. So the thigh hole is the back.
I'm just gonna stand up actually. And so this
like,
was the back.
This was the strap, like the sleeves, and then like this was the back.
Do you know? That's so cool.
Yeah, and because fashion is so wasteful. I didn't want to throw away things, and I'm a hoarder. So as you can see from the crazy amount of fabric,
I've seen more hoarding studios than this one.
No, this is just very organized hoarding.
It's all hidden.
It's all hidden in boxes. But like basically, I don't like throwing something away, and so things that I would make as like a first draft toile that didn't necessarily make it to something, I then would be like, okay, maybe I don't like this as a top, so let's make it a skirt. And then pieces of fabric that are like offcuts, maybe if I French seam them all together, can I drape with this kind of thing? So like that's how all of these kind of sets started.
And they come out so well.
And
like, it's just like, wow.
But obviously then eventually you like make a pattern from it and then you can reproduce it. But yeah, none of them end up the same because all fabric says differently.
That's such a creative way to not waste as well.
Yeah.
And I guess it's also sets yourself a little challenge. Like you need
to find
like
how can I fit this in?
Like what's the potential in this thing?
Exactly. So like that's like behind you, that's exactly what we're doing. We're using like silk offcuts for a little corset.
Yeah, she is making her intern a gown as a leaving present. Like if anyone needs an internship, this is where you need to go because this is like stunning.
Basically, I just try and use stuff.
No, it's really, really like inspiring.
Let's be honest, like you don't have money when you start. So I couldn't afford to buy fabric for it to not end up being used. Which is why I use bed sheets for my toiles.
Why do you think a corset can still cause so much controversy in 2024?
Everything causes controversy.
True. Next question.
Like people love to be offended. Like people love to complain, myself included. People love to be offended. Like what are we on now? Like the 5th wave feminism, 6th wave feminism. Like people want to feel that they have choice over what they wear, right? And I think corsets remind people of a time that women didn't have choice, and it like plays into the whole like you have to look a certain way, whatever, right? But I just like playing with silhouette.
Yeah, like I just want to look hot. It's okay.
No, but like it's if you can create so much on something if you have a strong base. And I think if you like, I couldn't make something sheer and then attach loads of things to it because it would just
fall.
Yeah, but it's like if you start with a corset, you can make something look so light, but you know.
Yeah.
So I don't know why people
went crazy about this Galliano corset and the Met Gala that Kim Kardashian was wearing.
Yeah.
And like.
But I think that's because...
Do you think it's because it was her also?
It's because it's her and people just do love to hate the Kardashians.
Because when I saw all of this like uproar, I was like, okay, chill. I thought corset is so mainstream now, like as in...
It's so mainstream.
Like it works its way into just like the everyday wardrobe for the everyday woman just to wear with like a pair of jeans. Like that's where we're at in fashion. So I was like, wow.
But I don't think it's to do with the fact that she was wearing a corset. I think it's to do with the fact that her body is cosmetically altered. Yeah. When you wearing something that accentuates what you already look like and their bodies are so like extreme, it does just look crazy, and I think you can't look at her and do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think.
But then at the same time I'm like,
because like two things, like a lot of people tight lace in their normal life. I don't think it's that crazy. Like
jersey dresses have fucking lace up at the back so you can pull your waist in. Like let's be honest, it is flattering. So like,
because I was like, if you spent even 0.01 second on the goth scene, you know that this is like nothing new.
Yeah.
First of all.
For sure.
Second of all, maybe we're taking a complete tangent now, but how are we at a point in the world where a corset is more shocking than a BBL? Because BBL is much more extreme body modification than putting on a tight corset.
And yet everyone and their nan has BBL. It's just to do with building a base. Like 9 times out of 10, the majority of dresses you wear are boned in some way. They just might not be tight laced, and they might not be like couture with boning, with like whatever. Anyway, the structure, they might not have all that. But like, I'm sorry, even like high street dresses have boning in them.
Yeah. You also do bridal wear.
Starting.
I wanted to know, like, what's your favorite like fashion bride from another designer? Because there's so many iconic ones.
The main ones that like come to mind is like Carrie Bradshaw's dress, Vera Wang dress.
Oh yeah.
In the awful movie.
That awful movie that I've watched so many times, and I watch on every plane.
Where she's like throwing the flowers at big. I don't know. Because I don't think I really have ever looked at bridal.
But you know, most collections they have a bride at the end.
Yeah, which I do really like. I think like the Petza, Modern Bride, Divine. Like to me, she's like, we do draping in like could not be more polar opposite, but like I really appreciate her work.
She's one of my favorite.
The way she does bridal, I'm like fab.
And I love the way like she sticks to her kind of theme, but it always feels new.
Yeah. I did like a couple days seamstressing with her, and they're crazy.
Yeah, I wouldn't even know where to begin.
Yeah, they're crazy. They're amazing. Anyway, I would say her bridal, I think is really inspiring, really individual. But like in general, I don't know. Like most designers, like Connor Ives, I guess. I love his bridal. I just like people that are doing their own thing, you know?
Yeah, I can't disagree with that. What would be like the Ellie Misner bride?
I think wait till like the end of the year, and then you'll see like a few.
There you go. That's an incentive to go and follow Ellie, so we can see the journey of this bride.
Because I've got like 4 brides this summer. Yeah. So one's been finished, and then I've got 3 to go.
That's good that it's going well.
Yeah, I think it works. People are so much more interested in getting a small designer to like be part of the process with them. So I think that's why. Because my stuff, even though I've only done like 1 bridal look, they see what I do and they're like, oh, if you made that in white, that would be cool.
Yeah, you can kind of visualize.
Yeah, so I think it kind of works.
You hosted your own off-schedule show in with your old studio, right?
Yeah, just upstairs.
How did that go? What was the experience like?
It was. I was gonna say it was chaos, but it actually wasn't. Like, I think when you don't have budget and you don't have funding, you have to do everything yourself, which then means you have to rely on like everyone around you to like really step up and help, which is what happened. It was amazing. But I think that stress of being like, I want this to look so professional and I don't know how to do that without budget was really hard. And I'm doing another one this October, and I'm hoping it will be slightly less bad in terms of that. But yeah, it was amazing. I loved it. But I think it was like a big learning curve of what to do, what not to do, what worked, what didn't work. Do you know what I mean? But yeah, I really, really enjoyed it. I think my work is very different in person, you know? So I think it's like being able to see like Demi Couture in person is.
The way you presented your work was kind of like the old couture salon style.
Like originally you've got like old Elia, he used to do his shows in his maison. You've got like Balenciaga did the same. Like they would just like set up chairs and it would be like maison upstairs, show downstairs. And I feel like I wanted to have it in the space where I create the stuff. 1, because I can afford the space. And 2, because I think it's like quite cool to be, everything's there, but it's like kind of pushed out the side or whatever. Like the machines were still upstairs. Like it's quite cool. Like I quite liked that. And it has that like really like new raw feel, you know? So yeah, that's kind of, I didn't choose to do it because of that, but I felt like it was okay to do it.
Well, yeah, it's like an homage now.
Exactly.
That's what we're going to say. That's the story, and we're sticking to it.
Yeah.
But I'm glad it went well.
Yeah.
Would you encourage other designers to just not be afraid to break off schedule and do their own thing and not kind of give in to the pressure of like,
I think
having this crazy produced? affair?
I think it's all down to whether or not you have support and funding, if I'm honest. Because if someone said to me, like, here's 20K, do a show in Fashion Week, I'd be like, yeah.
But if you haven't got the resources,
If you
I
haven't
think a
got
lot of
the
people just don't
resources,
show. They just do like
for sure,
photos,
they do
like a lookbook.
campaigns, they do lookbooks, and I think that is amazing.
Yeah.
But I think it's completely dependent on what your clothes look like. Like,
True.
I don't think my clothes translate in a campaign the same they do in real life. And
Fair
I think
enough.
it's kind of, I can show people my stuff in a campaign, and that's like amazing, but like it doesn't have a feeling, and I want it to have a feeling, you know?
What is the most rewarding thing about your job?
Okay. So cliche, so cringe. When someone puts something on and they are like actually like visibly shocked at how beautiful they look.
Oh.
It's like, honestly, that feeling makes me want to cry. Like it's so nice because like we're so told to hate ourselves. And I think when someone puts something on and they like feel beautiful, I'm like, that's so nice. Do you know what I mean? So that, I would say that.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty good answer. And I think especially with the type of work that, sorry, I'm just looking at your clothes over there, not just looking out of the camera, but especially with the type of things that you make, it is a lot of that feeling of like, you on the hanger, you can't tell what's going on.
Exactly.
It needs a body.
Exactly. It needs
to bring
a
it
body.
to life.
It needs like a personality inside it.
Yeah.
You know?
So I guess you get that feeling a lot.
Yeah, like when people put stuff on, and I'm like, oh my god, because I get that feeling too. I'm like, oh my god, you look amazing. Yeah, and I think sometimes, especially with corsetry, I think people aren't used to seeing themselves sculpted.
Right.
And like that's always fun because people are like, wait, what the fuck? I have a waist, and I'm like, yeah. So yeah, that's really fun, and like playing with like padding. I do a lot of padding, and like,
oh, I didn't know actually you do a lot of padding. That's so
like
cool.
some of my stuff is like all the like mini baby bells have like panniers underneath, so they're held out. They all have like little padding. So yeah, it's like stuff like that is just like really fun to see on a person because it just looks so different. It looks so nothing on a hanger, or like if it's draped, it's like, what the hell is this?
Person makes the dress, right?
Yeah.
What would you say is the most important thing you could pass on to someone that's just wanting to be a designer and hasn't started yet?
Don't. No, God, prepare yourself. Honestly, like it's a lot of work. You have to be okay with like having no social life, missing everything, especially until you're like at a point where you can take time off. Like I think so I started in lockdown just doing like corsets out of old clothes I had, like just for something to do.
Oh wow. So you're actually doing this more recently than I thought.
Yeah, so that was like how it started, and then I started selling them, and I was kind of like doing it on like a random basis. I was seamstressing, working for other people, blah blah blah. And when fast fashion started making corsets, I was like, I don't know what to do with myself anymore because like no one's paying however much.
But those corsets don't do anything.
But it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
People want to wear trend, and I never wanted to be trend, but I happened to end up in trend because I just got on the wave early enough that it just happened. Do you know what I mean? And then I ended up like seamstressing, working with other people, and then I took like a year off to like look after myself. So I was not very good mentally, and when I came back, I like had to quit all my other jobs, and I was like, okay, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this. And then I did a collection, and that was in 2022.
Wow.
September 2022. So that's like a year and a half ago.
Wow.
That was the first Demi Couture collection. So I'd say even though I started in COVID, I started then.
Wow, sorry, this is like now I'm thinking, oh, it's a much shorter time frame. So I was trying to gauge,
it's been like a year and a
from
half
your
of
socials
like
and stuff, but
working for myself as a fully fledged
just
designer.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
So a lot of like milestones ticked off quite fast.
Yeah. So I would say if I had advice for someone else, it would be like, you do this if you like genuinely really want to, because if not, like it's really a lot. Like I didn't take time off last year, and I had to take time off. I was so burnt out.
Right.
And so I was like, okay, this year we're not going to do that. We're going to like be better. But yeah, basically,
Wow, no.
yeah, I don't even know what advice I could give someone, because I think it's just been, as I say, I haven't planned a thing.
Well, I think buckle
I've
up
just
is pretty
fallen
good
in.
advice.
I don't think you can work in the arts if you don't want to. So if you really genuinely want to do something, just like get really fucking good at your craft, because then no one can compete. Like, this isn't me against this person or me against this. It's like, I'm just aiming to get better at what I do, so that I can be the best at what I do. You know?
Yeah, 100%.
So I guess I'd give that advice.
That's good advice. That's
Yeah.
definitely good advice. It's just you versus you.
Yeah, like just keep improving. Like, it's a learning curve. The stuff I started with is worse than the stuff I'm doing now. I'm sure the stuff in a year will be better than the stuff I'm making now. Like,
isn't that so annoying though? It's good, but I'm always like, oh, I'm gonna hate this in a year.
yeah. But luckily I don't. But
That's
I'm
good,
like,
that's good.
I do look at my old patterns and I'm like, oh, that's so bad. Like, cringed out that I made something.
But that's
in
a good
way.
sign, because it shows that your
sure.
growth
For
is
sure.
fast.
But yeah, I'd say that's probably the best advice I could actually give anyone, is like, hone your craft, because then you literally will only get better.
Right. I think that's a great note. Thank you so much for sitting down with me.
Thank you for
It's
having
been really,
me.
like, I feel like I'm watching that episode like, wow, it's so interesting, your story. And just like your process. It's been really amazing to learn about. And I'm sure someone watching is going to be in your field and will learn more from it than even I did. So thank you so much.
That's okay.
As usual, I hope you enjoyed the interview. I hope there's something you take away from that, a teaching, a learning. I feel like she drops a lot of gems. As usual, free game every week on the Fashion app. Like, subscribe, share, always share. And I'll see you next week. Bye.